Hey, chemistry students. Back here with you. We're doing another lab today, and I'm here with you today in the Mega Lab, which is kind of a fun place, or kind of sad we're missing you. And we're going to do today the acid-base titration lab, which looks like this here. So again, if you guys can, if you have a printer at home and you can print this off, go ahead and do so. I know generally have you guys work on your own piece of paper, and that's fine too. But if you can print this off, you certainly may for today's lab. For students in class, I handed out a paper that looks something like this for the students in class. So it looks like this. If you can't print it out, it's all right. You're just going to have to copy down this data table on your own piece of paper, and you're going to kind of have to build your own graph. But otherwise, there's not a whole lot that you need this piece of paper for. So if you can't print it off, that's fine. Just copy down, again, the data table and then the graph on your own. Again, we are in the Mega Lab. So sorry you're not joining us today. Pretty cool place. I'll have to get you guys back here sometime and hopefully come up here and enjoy it. But just me today. Here is our apparatus. This is our burette, this long, slender piece of glassware that we talked about in notes the other day. So it's really tall. I didn't quite do it justice when I talked about it in class during our notes. And it's being held on there by a burette clamp. So we see holding on to it. Down here at the base, this is called the stopcock. And we just turn that very, very slow, small amounts of our titrant can then go through. Down at the bottom, then we have, there's our unknown concentration of acid in this beaker, and this green guy is a pH probe. So we are measuring the pH of our solution, and that's being recorded to us over here on a LabQuest. Let's see if we can fix that glare, but you can see right now the pH is 0.31. So we know we're working with an acid. That's kind of the idea of the lab here. We just don't know what the concentration of that acid is. So the whole point of this lab is we're going to use a known concentration of base. We actually already have the base in the burette. I did that before I came on, before I went live. And the concentration of that base is 0.4 molar sodium hydroxide. And our whole point of this lab is that we're going to use that base, we're going to titrate with it to figure out what the concentration of my acid is. And that's my analyte. It's down in here. And I don't know what that concentration is, so I'm going to titrate it and see if we can't figure that out. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a drop of phenolphthalein. It's not showing up real well with the glare there, but this is phenolphthalein. This is an indicator. I just want one drop, nothing major. There we go. And that's an indicator. And you guys will see it'll change color for us when we reach our desired endpoint. All right, so we are going to go ahead and get going here. Again, right now, all we have in our beaker is acid. Our pH, let's show up a little bit better. Our current pH is 0.30. So we can go ahead and we can get started on our first bit of data. We have not yet added any base, and we have a pH of 0.31. So there's a pH of our solution. It's 0.31, and that's at a 0 milliliters of base. So the next time we'll stop and check is at 2 milliliters of base. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the stopcock. There's the stopcock. I'm going to let some base drain. I'm going to have my eye up here. And as the base drains, I'll stop it when we get to exactly 2 milliliters. Check. There it goes. Open the stopcock, and there we go. milliliters drained in. I don't know if you were able to see that. And our pH has gone up just a little bit. Our pH now is at a 0.53, 0.55. So it's still going up a little bit. Just let it swirl around a little bit there. Let it settle. Okay, and there we go. We'll call that our second data point. That here. 2 milliliters of base. We're up to a pH of 0.45. Okay, our next recording will come at 4 milliliters of base. So I'm going to add an additional 2 more milliliters. Give that a little swirl around, make sure it all mixes up. pH probe in there, and we'll see what we got. I'm going to shut the blinds here real quick, see if we can get some of the better reading on that device. To help a whole lot. One more blind I can chat here. And let's see if that's any better. Nope, doesn't look like it. Oh, hey, there we go. All right. Excellent, excellent, excellent. 0.50 at 4 milliliters of base added. Recording on our data paper there. We have a pH of 0.50 when we've added 4 milliliters of base. Okay, now we're going to go up to 6 milliliters of base. That's an additional 2 more milliliters. Again, we'll let that swirl around a little bit. And we'll make our observations as to where our pH has jumped up to now. Making a very good reading there. I'm going to try one more thing. I can't get that. Oh, I feel like we're nearly there. All right, playing around in the Mega Lab. There we go. That's not a bad reading there. So 0.60 at 6 milliliters of base added. All right. Hopefully we are the right amount of brightness now. And I have stopping to adjust so we can read that pH meter on the internet. Okay, so our next one, we're going up to 8 milliliters. I'm going to add 2 more milliliters. There we go. 2 more milliliters. We're going to let that swirl around a little bit and settle. Take a look at our pH. 0.64. So at 8 milliliters, we have 0.64 pH. With that recording right there in the data table. Add another 2 milliliters. Let that swirl around a little bit, let it settle. Make our recording. 0.68 pH. So at 10 milliliters, we have a pH of 0.68. Okay, so now you notice we're only going to add 1 milliliter at a time. We're going to slow down a little bit. We were adding 2, and now we're just going to go 1 for a couple of trials, and then we're only going to add half a milliliter at a time. Let's see what happens if we measure out just 1 milliliter at a time here. Okay. Let's swirl around for just a minute and adjust. And we'll take a look at our pH. All right. 0.72, so 11 milliliters added. We have a pH of 0.72. Moving right along. 1 more milliliter, we'll get up to 12 now. Okay. At 12 milliliters, our pH is 0.76. I'll add 1 more milliliter. There we go, a quick milliliter. We'll let that mix up nice properly. Wait for our pH to adjust. Try to keep myself in camera here. All right, our pH now, 0.80. So it's going up ever so slightly. Again, that's at 13 milliliters. We have a pH of 0.80. And now you'll notice we're only going to go up by half a milliliter at a time. We'll do that for several trials here. So there's our first half a milliliter. Now we're up to 0.82. So a total of 13.5 milliliters have been added. We have a pH of 0.82. milliliter, take us up to 14 total milliliters. That swirl around for a second there. So here's the pH. And doesn't want to settle there, does it? Okay, we'll call that 0.85 pH. It's not 5.8, 8.5, oh boy. Okay, pH is 0.85. Okay, another half milliliter up to 13.5. Came out very quick. Might have been just a hair more than half a milliliter. All right, jumping up to 0.87 now at 14.5. Add another half milliliter up to a total of 15 milliliters we'll have added now. Swirl around. I'll mix out. Check our pH. Oh, bounce them again between 0.88 and 0.89. I think we're settled at 0.89. So 15 milliliters. pH of 0.89. And we'll add our next half a milliliter. $15.5. We have a very big jump there. pH of 0.9. And the next half milliliter. All that at 0.97. Oh, I'm sorry, 0.93 is what it was. Not sure I said 7, 0.93. So that's 16 milliliters with a pH of 0.93. And we'll drop in our next half a milliliter. And that last tenth of a milliliter is really tough. I'm going to go too overboard with it. There we go. Take a look at our pH, 0.95. All right, so 16.5 milliliters. And 0.95. And we'll put in our next half a milliliter. And our pH is up to 0.98. So a slow and steady crawl upward continues. Another half milliliter to get up to 17.5. The pH, 17.5 milliliters. We're at 0.99. And now our last half milliliter increment, because we're going to go up by 1 again after that for a little bit. Okay, so 18 milliliters of sodium hydroxide added. We're at 1.02 pH. Now we're going to go back to adding 1 milliliter at a time. Milliliters. And we have a pH of 1.06, we'll call it. And now we'll make a jump up to 20 milliliters. 1 more milliliter added. pH is at 1.1. Okay, so yes, I expected our pH to get the equivalence point, which remember is at 7, right in this area. That's why we slowed down and only went by half a milliliter. And yet we are not close. We're going to continue to build our data column. So if you only went to 20 milliliters, and should have, we're going to continue. We're going to go to 21 milliliters next. We'll continue our slow, steady climb up at 21 milliliters with a pH of 1.14. And now we'll go to 22 milliliters. Just 22nd milliliter added. pH is 1.18. And so we'll build a new data column for 23 milliliters added. Continuing on. Twenty-third milliliter. And our pH up to 1.24. It's climbing, not nearly as fast as I might have expected it to. Now we're going to a 24th milliliter. Four milliliters. Our pH has jumped to 1.29. Still not what we're looking for, so we're just going to continue on our data column here with the 25th milliliter of base added. And at 25 milliliters of base, the pH of 1.34. Our next milliliter of base. Oh, I don't know if you saw that, just a quick hint of pink. That's our indicator working. It was very brief though, as the solution spread out, it went away, but all right, we are getting closer. It's a good indication. We'll look at that first coloration of pink. So the 26th milliliter of base added with a pH of 1.40. And I got a feeling we're about to make that big jump here. All right, you see the end of the pink coloration? Gotta keep your eye on it next time. We got it again this time. It went away pretty quick, but it was there briefly. One more drop squeezing out. Just gonna hang tight. Okay. So at our 27th milliliter of base added, we have a pH at 1.47. Watch for that little bit of pink down here in the analyte as I add the base. Let's see if you can see the coloration when I add that next milliliter here. You see the pink? With the white piece of paper above or below it, so you guys can really see the coloration. Yeah, there you can definitely see the pink, just a little bit. And when we swirl it, probably is going to go away because we'll be mixing it up and it won't quite be ready to make that jump yet. So swirl it and it goes away. 28th milliliter of base added, and we're now at a pH of 1.55. We're at our 29th milliliter of base. You can see if you guys can catch that little bit of pink. There we go. Not as much pink that time. Kind of interesting. So 29 milliliters of base, pH of 1.66. There's our 30th milliliter. Again, hopefully you can kind of see the pink. Just a little bit, and we swirl it. It'll probably go away. Not quite ready to have that pink indicator show up permanently yet. It's cool to see it. So there's our 30th milliliter of base. And our pH is up to 1.74. 1 more milliliter. There's a pink again, but again, a quick stir and that goes away. 31 milliliters with a pH of 1.88. Still not making those big jumps I'm waiting for it too, but yeah. Hey, there's a pretty big jump. Okay, we're definitely getting ready to now. 32 milliliters over 2 or 2.06. One more milliliter base. All right, there we go. Now we're getting these big jumps. This is our exponential curve we're waiting to see. So at 33 milliliters, make that jump to 2.38. One more milliliter base. Oh, look at this. It's definitely pink, but a little swirl, and that pink goes away. Boy, we were really close there. Take a look at that. Look at that pH. Look how much it jumped up to 6.62, 6.1. Huh? Doesn't want to settle, does it? Must have had a very basic spot right where the probe was. Okay, there we go. Come on. Hmm. Not seen one jump around this much. Still reacting, still reacting. So right around that pH of 7, we'll talk more about this later this week, but right around that pH of 7, it's going to be very, very sensitive. You know, we're almost equal. We don't have way more of one or way more of the other. Almost equal. So that's why we're really having some problems getting it to land. Slowly coming down. I've not had this much problem getting it to settle in a long time. Hmm. All right, I'm going to call that one 5.93. We did finally get it to settle. 34 milliliters, 5.93 pH. All right, time for milliliter number 35. You can watch that pink color here. There we go. You see the pink color of the solution? And that's the indicator telling us that we've reached our end point. If you stir and it doesn't go away, it means you're there, or perhaps even gone over it. So, yep, we've reached that pink color, or dark pink color. I wish we'd only been going by half a milliliter there, but hey, look at that pH. All right, we are definitely basic. 35 milliliters is all it took. Let's do 1 more milliliter just for good measure. There we go. All right, and our final pH at milliliter number 36, 12.2. All right, fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, so a couple things to keep in mind. I know I didn't put the 0.0 on all of these milliliters, but you should definitely make sure you do put the 0.0 on all those milliliters. That significant figure will be important. Your next step is going to be to graph that data. So your pH versus the volume of base that we added. We added a total of 36 milliliters. So that's going to be down here at this end. And we started at 0 milliliters. Make sure, and it says right here in the directions, make sure you circle your data points. We talked about that last week in notes. Make sure you circle those data points. Once you get all the data points plotted, go ahead and put a line through them. And then here's the issue. We never really hit exactly a pH of 7. Right? We were at 5.93 and we were at 11.77. And we never hit exactly 7. So you're going to have to use your graph to figure out at exactly where a pH of 7 would have been. Where does pH of 7, where does that intersect your graph? What volume would that have been going down? And you want to record that here. And then don't forget, there is a backside to this. This is where the questions are. So once you have the graph made, balanced chemical reaction for hydrochloric acid and sodium hydroxide. Then you're going to find that equivalence point, much like we did in our homework over the weekend, much like we did in notes last week. Find the concentration. Again, another way of saying concentration, molarity. So you're looking for the molarity of the acid using your graph and figuring out where the equivalence point was, that pH of 7. How much base did we add? So use your graph, figure out the molarity, and then questions 3 and 4 are to write the complete ionic and net ionic equations for our balanced chemical equation. So that's the idea of the lab. It's going to be due Thursday before spring break. So make sure you guys are working on it before you go. And if you have any questions with it, please stop by. See me during office hours. But otherwise, guys, I'll see you next week.